Talking Tottenham, a fantasyfocus.com production.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 171 of Talking Tottenham. Bucky, joined as always by young Daniel Shakes in his dad hat. We're eating tangies today, Shakes.
How those tangies taste, Bucks. You like the bill on my dad hat? Is it too curved? That's what I'm
It's a
going
little
for.
curved.
That's what I'm
It's a
going
little
for.
curved.
Curves are
You
in
know what
again.
else is a little curved? That ball from Hunman's son to find the back of the net there. Beautiful, beautiful game. I'm going away from this saying a couple of different things. Number one, everything that you and I have been preaching preseason came to fruition today. And at the end of that line, there's the separation of the game from the fans. The fans being back in numbers. How did you feel about seeing all those fans, hearing the songs, everything involved with that game day buildup?
The scenes, Bucks, the scenes, the flags waving, like how everyone got a flag when they came into Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, naming rights to be determined quite shortly. It was unbelievable, Bucks, and it kind of led up to this match, right, for the match week 1, with this being on Sunday and being the marquee match. So on Friday, we got to see it at Brentford. Place was awesome, just electric as they took down Arsenal, who, you know, we gotta watch out. Regulation. We'll see what happens there with Arsenal. But then you kind of saw it on Saturday with those games, and then it led into Sunday, and it was an amazing atmosphere. Obviously, it pushes the players to, you know, their limits. So men of the match, of course, goes to supporters first, but then we'll be able to list some players after that, right?
I don't think we're going to have any problem naming our men of the match.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
There were a few players.
Guys. Yeah,
there were a few players that stood out. But what I took away from this game is I love the Tottenham supporters. They were electric the entire game. They were so loud. I don't think I've ever heard a louder "He's one of our own" than when Japhet Tanganga was pulled in the 82nd minute there. That was electrifying, and it just warmed my heart. And I have a very cold heart, but my heart became warm in that moment. And I cried. I cried several times at the end of that match. I told you I was going to be emotional on this. Just seeing fans back in the stands and what the team did, they galvanized behind that fan. And they said, we're going to go out there. We're giving it our all. We're not going to be perfect, but you will not leave this stand without knowing we've given everything for the badge. And that's what the team did from front to back. Every single player that played. Dele Alli, big shout out to that fella. He recorded something like 11 and a half kilometers on the pitch, which is the most in a Premier League match in quite some time. What an effort from him. And he was asked to play a different role. He was playing back more, Shakes, instead of playing that number 10 role. He was playing back a bit more, and he really fit the bill there. What were your thoughts on Dele's performance? I think we should start there because I was very impressed.
Yeah, Bucks. I mean, he put in an absolute shift. Like you said, the distance tracked was quite a number. And, you know, we've been following his training, right? Folks on social media, seeing him in shape, ready for the season. And then you watch him in exhibition matches, the preseason, kind of playing on this left side of a 4-3-3. But then if Spurs are in possession, he's got the license to kind of come up and float up forward. So what that means is he's just going to run the shit out of out of his legs on the pitch there, because he's playing defensive ball, has midfielder responsibilities, but then gets to go up and attack. And really by the end of this match, he was still the guy, you know, running around trying to free up and get those transition counterattack opportunities. Really, to a fault almost. He led to that one free kick at the end for Man City just because he got so excited thinking he could go and poach the ball. So, I mean, if he has this type of development, Bucks, where we can rely on him, I'm not saying he's suddenly the next Højbjerg, Skip, you know, Lo Celso as far as just midfielder goes. I still think I'd rather,
engine.
Yeah, exactly. I still like my Dele kind of up front trying to be an attacker or being a creator. But if we can get both worlds out of him, where, you know, he's got the midfielder responsibilities, he can play in a 4-3-3 and still go forward, you know, that's what we're asking for here. We're not asking him to be a second striker. We're not asking him to play on the other wing outside Son. I mean, if we can get him in the midfield and get meaningful minutes, granted, he can't play this game all the time, Bucks. You got to sub him out. You got to rotate him. This would be absurd if he just played every game like this. But I mean, Spurs have a new player basically because he wasn't involved last year. So if we can get this out of Delhi, man, that's a big win for the club.
Well, there's one thing he did several times that he's never done in a Spurs shirt before, and that's win 50-50 headers. Down the stretch, Dele Alli was in every 50-50 header ball, and he was winning most of them. That's the effort. That's the difference here, is knowing your role, sticking to it, even if you're not asked to be an attacker, because he wasn't yesterday. He was asked to play box-to-box midfield, and for the most part, he was playing a bit back. It was cool to see the evolution there. I think there's a lot of good things for him and the work he's put in the offseason. Folks have been talking about it's a refocused Delhi. He said the same thing. We saw it. We saw it yesterday. And for all the grief I've given him over the last 3 seasons, which I've been very vocal about it. I needed more from him. He provided that yesterday. And it's funny that we're starting this conversation about such a wonderful match with so many outstanding performances with Dele Alli, because I think it stops and it starts with how Delhi plays week in, week out. If you get that level of effort from Dele Alli, where he is selfless out there and he's winning headers, that's a big change in how we previously set up to have him come in and play a role where he's asked to do more of the dirty work. I like a dirty Delhi. I think he's the dirty Delhi now.
The down and dirty Delhi.
Yeah,
who do you think
down and dirty?
It's like men of the match, but then you have like the top 3. Those guys put in a shift. Squad. I feel like Delhi, Lucas, and Skip. I mean, just the work rate on those 3 guys. I mean, Lucas. You called it. You said there could be a good season ahead for Lucas. I said, well, I'm just focused on the offensive stuff, so I still worry about, of course, the final third passing, the decision making. But when it comes to setting up this way, like a 4-3-3, where Man City's Man City, they're going to have 60 to 65% of the ball. To have Lucas back there as such a pest and such a hard worker to free up win challenges and then spring the counterattack, that's unmatched. No one else on the team. I mean, Steve Bergwijn's trying to play like Lucas, and he had a great game too, minus that one finish that he missed. But Lucas Moura and Delhi just put in absolute shifts. Skip, too, as a holding mid, played the entire match as well, just thrown into that fire. I mean, you just had these games put in by these players, Bucks, where you could just tell they just bought the hell in.
It comes down to Nuno. It comes down to a manager that is asking his players to level with him and letting them know that he's here to learn too. He's here to figure out what works best for you. It's not insert square peg in the round hole. It is what works best for you as a player. And you saw that. You saw it from all the players yesterday. In terms of a full Tottenham performance, that might have been the best I've felt after a match since Ajax. I felt like every player that started or came in from the bench put everything on the table. And I think a lot of that has to do with the positivity, the way that Nuno approaches it, the way he's communicated with the players, the way he's communicated with the media has been nothing but, I'm here to try. I'm here to get the best from these players. And guess what? Week 1, we go out and do it. I was very optimistic. You had a draw for this match. But there's just something that was building throughout preseason with the buy-in. And the buy-in, I think, is a big takeaway from that first game. You saw 11 players going for it every single time there was a 50-50 ball. And what I'm probably most pleased with, Lucas, what a performance. We'll get to him in a second. I was most pleased with the fact that this team was willing to take angles and channels that you didn't see under Jose and you didn't see towards the tail end of Poch's reign. You saw this team feeling a bit more free, a bit more like, I can make a mistake and that's okay. Because what's the end of the deal here, Shakes? It's keep blasting. If you keep blasting, you keep Ederson on edge, and then eventually you find the back of the net when there's just a very minor mistake made by Ruben Diaz, Mr. Man of the Year last year, When Ruben Diaz is
Not even
out
player
of
of the year,
position,
he's just man of the year.
man of the year last year. Everybody's talking
Time
about this
magazine.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, person of the year. But Ruben Diaz was out of position on that sun shot, and you saw him collapse to the floor. Ederson thought this was sealed off. I don't need to worry about that angle because Ruben Diaz is there. Well, guess what? Hummin Son's in town now, and this is where we come to party. I like partying quite a bit, Shakes. From time to time, I do it on a Sunday. Did it yesterday. Got real toasted up, even though I'm under the weather. It was just remarkable to see the effort, the buy-in. I gotta say, Lucas, wow, what effort from him. And in this kind of free-flowing role that he has under Nuno, I think he could be very, very successful this year.
Bucks, that might be a record for how long you've talked like in one stream of consciousness about Spurs. That was great. Loved it. So many different directions. You mentioned Ajax like 6 minutes ago in that. By the way, who was not on the pitch in that match too? Just
Harry
throwing
Kane.
that out there. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, so many different directions to go. I mean, Lucas, focusing on him real quick, absolute pest. He had that sweet little flick. By the way, that's also set up by Skip, even though not the tallest guy in the world, challenging for that header, frees up the ball. Then you get the flick from Lucas to Steve. Steve's off and running, gets it to our boy Sonny. Maybe Man City should have looked at signing Sonny. It would have accomplished two things, Bucks. You would have gotten a great player as a striker on your team. And also you would have eliminated the fact that Sonny destroys you every time he steps on the pitch against you. He is an absolute Man City killer. The team has bought in, and you saw it coming to fruition. I didn't think it would build this quick. So that's where this outcome is surprising. And granted, this was the time we talked about you'd want to play Man City. You got KDB coming off the bench. Foden's hurt. Still wasn't, Kyle Walker didn't play. You know, you're coming off of like a long summer for a lot of the star players, which are on Man City. So this was probably the time for them to be had. They will be okay in the future, but we'll talk about them a little bit later. They're not, in my opinion, winning some meaningful stuff unless they fill some gaps, specifically at striker, just because the other teams have loaded up, like the Man U's, the Chelsea's, Liverpool look good. But going back to the Spurs performance from the preseason to now, I mean, it was the same lineup that started against Arsenal. And you saw Dele as well as Lucas just kind of growing into this position, buying in. Spurs played brave as shit against Man City, like they did with Arsenal too. Like they kept their three guys forward. You know, they relied on the other back, 8, so to speak, 7 plus Hugo, where those guys were ready for the counterattack. We weren't putting every guy behind the ball. So Spurs played brave, like you said. They were challenging in different channels. They were playing that Christmas tree type look where they let Man City go out wide and said, do something about it. Put a lot of confidence in Reggie and Tanganga, and they both delivered on the wings. Basically, they just owned Mahrez, they owned Grealish, they owned Sterling. It was an amazing performance by the outside players for Spurs.
Tremendous performance. And the confidence of both players. When you had free-flowing wings for Man City, they kept the shape the entire match, and it never stopped. It never wavered. They were always there. And I got to say it. I think Japhet Tanganga is a very, very astute one-on-one defender. He is not – he doesn't get rattled. You can't rattle his cage. He's like the Dennis Rodman of the EPL.
Check his pockets. He rattles Grealish, Sterling, they're both in there.
Well, I was talking to a fella at work today, and he said he needs cargo pants now.
He's got so many Man City players in his pockets. He's going to be
stacking players in his pockets. He needs like the military grade cargos.
I like that Wikipedia page that you sent me. And it's like his children are Jack Grealish and Raheem Sterling. Yeah, he has 2 sons.
What a wonderful job by him. Skip, I'm going to wax eloquently on my guy, Tanganga, in just a minute.
Yeah, we'll devote that time. We should get a sponsor for the Tanganga minute.
Well, we had Tangangis, and they were delicious. I'll be honest, though, I got to get fresh ones. That wasn't the freshest batch, but we've been waiting on a win for a long time. We've been waiting on a win for a long time. So, shelf life tends to get a little bit expired there. Skip, I thought he looked a little bit off his game for the first 10, 15 minutes. City was on the attack, and he lost his spot quite a few times. But if there's one thing about Skip, it's the effort. It never stops. He made good recovery runs, and as far as a guy hitting the deck and doing a slide tackle, at no point did I feel like it was a threat for him to go into the box and throw a slide in. He looked very comfortable doing it, well timed, got ball each and every time. That's a player for the future right there. I come away from this match feeling very confident about the fact that we stated we want both Skip and Tanganga in that game. They both played, and they both played a crucial role. It was just a nice, refreshing reset for Spurs to have those players come in and perform, because it's what we've been barking for. We're like two hungry dogs. We just need a steak, and we got a steak, two of them, filet mignons in Skip and Tanganga.
It's tough to replace the hunger that like the youth bring with them when they get into that starting 11 and they just want to prove themselves in front of the home fans in such a huge game starting the season. And that's what you saw with Skip and Tanganga. With Skip, Bucks, I mean, the first 10, 15 minutes, definitely Man City's way. It looked a little disarray for Spurs. And then I think he just kind of realized, like, shit, I can play with Gundogan and Fernandinho. I'm not saying I'm better than them, but I belong on this pitch out there. And he grew into that match. Him and Højbjerg were a great pairing and held their own. Sure, Man City's going to have the possession, but that doesn't mean Spurs were super uncomfortable while they had the possession. I mean, I would say after the first 20 minutes, really the bulk of the meaningful chances were all for Spurs. Like, Spurs deserved this victory. This wasn't like the 2-0 win against Man City where we needed a red card by Zinchenko Zinchenko in order for Spurs to come off and win that match. I mean, this was just Spurs had the better opportunities, they had the better game plan, and then they had the better desire than the team on the other side. And you see that desire in Skip, Tanganga. You saw it in the whole team, but it's just so refreshing to watch a new player come in and have that type of energy and match that type of intensity level in this type of match and just rise to the occasion. And then also be like, under 23 years old.
Skip is a grown man. Tanganga is a grown man. They're young, but they play like men, and they play hard. They play for that Tottenham badge on their chest, and they're giving it everything they have. And we needed that. We don't need folks coming in here on $200K a week and just saying,
that's a point.
Don't really feel like playing.
Don't
really feel like playing. I'd rather have a guy who's coming in hungry.
Skip comes in, Bucks, and okay, we got Winks and Sissoko on the bench, and Dombele's not even dressed. So that's how vital Skip was here in this situation. Basically, plug play. You're playing the full 90, and you got the champs coming in. Here we go, Skippy. Go for it. And yeah, I don't want to make it about Kane and Dombele, but it's been pointed out by more than me and you that just the top two wage earners are healthy scratches for this match, and that sucks. And the Harry Kane thing might figure itself out on its own, and there's still a lot of question marks where I'm not going to get on Kane hate fest. I don't think that's fair. But the Kane thing is definitely masking the fact that Tanguy Ndombele was a healthy scratch again today. And he's the second highest or tied for first, whatever he is, wage earner on the squad. And plays a position where we probably need some help.
Tough look. Tough look.
It's rough. The Kane thing's the best thing ever happened to him right now. It's really shielding that.
Shakes, you've had 2 children. How long did it take you to get back on a work call from the birth of your children?
Oh, I was taking work calls during the delivery, Bucks, but that's how I roll. I'm the rat. Okay. No.
I knew that was coming.
No, I was back in it. But that's thanks to technology, unfortunately. I'm just
saying, we've seen Tanguy on video, and he looks like he's in good shape. He looks skinny. He looks fit.
I'm not here to blame stuff like that. I see. I forgot that's what happened. He did have a young child. I don't know how long ago, but yeah, that definitely changes things, Bucks, for sure. But at the end of the day, we all got to be professionals here. Other players are having children as well. It's not just Ndombele.
I think Tanganga just had 2 on the pitch during the match.
He just adopted them.
Yeah. He went the he's
You
a
see him
giver.
filling out
He's a
paperwork
giver.
at halftime? Yeah, that's what I saw. He, he's like, look at these boys. I'm going to take them under my wing. You know,
Jack Tanganga.
At one point, I'm convinced Sky Sports radioed in to Anthony Taylor, the referee. The fact that he's the best referee in the Prem, using air quotes, is just, you know, watching Euros. I think hopefully they explained to everyone we got some work to do on the EPL refereeing situation. But I'm convinced Sky Sports called it in. They're like, man, we really built up Jack Grealish's move here to Man City, and this kid's just like owning him all half. Can you like have a talk with Hugo about this? So it was almost like we had to have this on-pitch meeting about Tanganga playing too hard. He didn't get a yellow. He had a couple nibbling fouls, yet we had to stop the match to have that conversation in the first half. That was bullshit. Do you remember that moment? Like,
oh yeah,
it was like,
time.
hey man, he's really like picking on Jack. Can we like do something about it, Hugo? And Hugo probably just laced expletives at Anthony Taylor, I'm sure. Just told him to chill the F out and had Tanganga's back. But great moment.
So I go back and forth. On this, and I'm glad you brought it up. Tanganga came out and he essentially tried to eviscerate the left side of Man City's attack. He said, I don't give a shit who you are. If you're Raheem Sterling, if you're Jack Grealish, I want to crush you. And you're going to know Japhet Tanganga owns the right side of my defense. You will know my name. You don't right now, but when you leave this pitch, you're going to be having nightmares about Japhet Tanganga. And he made it very apparent. He was a bit violent in the first 15 minutes. I mean, he was. So a bit of the conversation from Taylor was warranted. Absolutely. However, that mentality, that shows me everything I need to know about Tanganga. Was I surprised by it? Absolutely not. I that's exactly what I expect. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He hasn't been loaned out, Shakes. He's sat on the bench. He's played in big matches and he's played decent to well. It's his time now to say, I'm Japhet Tanganga. I wear number 25 for Spurs. You're going to be having nightmares of all my tire treads that are over the back of your shirt when I'm done with you. And that's exactly what he did. That's my standout performer of the match. I rewatched the match twice. So I've watched this match 3 times now. The little things that Japhet Tanganga does, they can't go unnoticed. He's one of the best players for his age in the Premier League. This is a guy who is just mere steps away, as my mic falls, mere steps away from becoming one of the best performers that Spurs have, a guy that we can bank on. And you've been extremely critical of this individual in the past, Shakes. So at this juncture, I need you to come clean. Japhet Tanganga, good player or great player?
He's a very good player, Bucks, on the upward trend. And I think you need to not confuse me saying that Spurs need help at right back as a shot at Tanganga saying he is not good enough to play there. I just think he needed meaningful minutes and he needed a loan out if he wasn't going to get those meaningful minutes. If Spurs are going to make this decision to move forward with just him and Doherty at right back and you assume Serge is gone, I mean, that's a decision they have to make. I mean, I think he played a fantastic match, Bucks. It's just to ask 37 plus, so 37 Prem matches plus every other campaign in the books that Spurs have, for him to be a dynamic right back that would be good in possession, that would understand more of midfield play when he comes from the center back rank. That's where I just think Spurs need more help at right back. Like that's just where that's a different look at that position. Not so much that's not me being pessimistic about the player. So I think that's what you got to separate here. I've never been anti Tanganga, the player. I'm just want a different position player at right back because I know he's really meant to be a center back. And you make that seem like that's hatred towards your boy Tanganga. That is not. He was one of my men of the match as well. He played an unbelievable game. And if it's like you're going against a Man U, a Chelsea, a Liverpool, a Man City, you probably want him out there for his defensive prowess because Spurs are not going to have the lion's share of the possession. That's just what it is. I worry about him playing all these minutes at once for Spurs at this high of a level. And then B, just when you are that team that's in possession and expected to do more offensive things, he just doesn't have that polish yet.
So you've said multiple times you would prefer him to go out on loan.
Yeah, because I want him to get minutes at center back. He will not get minutes at center back. If we're just going to say, let's make him a right back, I don't think that's absolutely the right fit when you're talking about a team in possession. But if we want to try to grow him into it, then I guess we'll watch that experiment unfold before our eyes. You said yourself you liked him as a center back. So don't suddenly be like, this was our right back answer forever. Don't do that.
I'm not saying that. I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth here, Daniel.
Well, I just already see where this is going. You're gonna be like, you gotta
I'm
give him a
doing
chance
my
at right
best.
back.
I like my blood is starting to boil just listening to you contradict all valid thought with the fact that he needs to leave Tottenham to get effective minutes and to grow as a player. He needs to be at Tottenham. And we saw that. That's been proven. Look at the Liverpool match from last year. The kid was electric. It's time for him to get his fair shine every week in the Prem. Put him out there. I don't care if it's right back, center back. Hell, he's played left back as well, Shakes. Put him wherever the hell you want him. Put him wherever you want him, because I think there's just a mentality to that player that we can't match right now. I think in terms of who is out for blood on that back line, Japhet Tanganga wants blood. That's what I want from my back line.
Nuno said, you got to love to defend, and this lad loves to defend. Or I think he says the boys more than the lads, I think is the way Nuno refers to the team. Look, Bucks, if we're going to move with him at right back and there is trust in Doherty. By the way, proof that I was in on Tanganga yesterday for sure was Doherty comes in the 83rd minute. And I'm like, that's not a defensive upgrade. What is going on here? He better be just completely gassed or whatever it is that's making us go to Doherty in the final 8 minutes here. And Doherty stepped up and he played well. So I'm sure that was the sub, or at least the rationale behind the sub, that Nuno was thinking that Tanganga was just absolutely spent by putting in a shift. And now KDB's coming in too, and he's fresh. Look, if Spurs are going to go forward with Tanganga and Doherty at right back, that does allow Spurs to then focus at center mid and then center back to finish up this transfer window. So if we're going to talk allocating of expenditures to hopefully bring in some other more meaningful players. Oh, and I meant to add backup striker or maybe even just, backup striker to Son. So if that allows us to kind of focus in those other areas, fine, let's do it.
So we had a question here from Alex Asher. What level of panic / anxiety did you have when Doherty came on for Japhet?
It was high. It was like 9+, I would say. Well, first I thought, oh shit, Tanganga's hurt. Then I saw him walking off, getting serenaded by the crowd. And I'm like, well, he's just got to be exhausted. It has to be that.
So I am asthmatic, so I have asthma. And the minute that I saw 25 on the sign, I had to get up and hit my inhaler. I hit my inhaler. I was like, Lord,
you hit
take me
else
now.
After the inhaler?
No, just the inhaler. I hit a beer, but I could have used something else. Who the hell knows? But yeah, nerves were extremely high when Doherty came in. But Doherty did a job. I think Tanganga was quite gassed, but there's too many times to count. I don't know if anybody, and if you're tuning in right now on YouTube, we're at Talking Tottenham Pod on YouTube, so follow us there. If you're here with us and you know of a compilation of Tanganga yesterday, please drop the link. I need to see just Tanganga rendered down to 5 minutes.
Just watch it in the dark tonight.
Of course.
Yeah. Do you think he'll do whatever for the squad to stay on the squad? But he sees himself as a center back too, though, Bucks. So that's where
he sees himself as a football player. He's a football player. He plays football.
But if he was asked what position do you want to play, he would say center back.
Well, he's only 6 foot, and that is a detriment to him in the center. Romero is 6'2", Dyer 6'3". You need some bigger fellas in that middle. So that's one thing where if he can get some time in at right back, I feel like he could be very successful there.
Yeah. Well, just don't parse this as me hating on Tanganga. I don't like that.
All I can reflect on
I came up with the sack, Bucks.
You did. He is the sack. But all I can do is reflect on previous statements made in the not so far past that you made about Tanganga. And I just want you to know that I was right. You were wrong.
This is true. I will admit that.
And
You were
I
also
think he's
right
the
about
right fit.
Lucas. Lucas just, if this is the way Spurs are going to play, this fits Lucas. He's undroppable in the starting 11.
It's that weird thing. I don't want to take any credit. I don't have any credit. I sit on my fat ass and I watch the games. But there was something about the way this team was looking in preseason and the way that they were coming together, the way that Nuno spoke, the way that Son has been speaking to the media. Son sounds like a different guy. Let's get to him and Son. He sounds like a different guy when he's talking to the media now.
Leader
It almost
Son,
seems
like he realizes it's
yes.
his team a little bit.
I wouldn't say that, but I would say that
his forward line, like it's like he's head honcho on the goal scoring department.
Well, I think he's coming into his own in terms of he has his forever home now with Spurs, which, yeah, come on, you Spurs.
Can't believe no one ever went for him.
He loves
Thanks, rest of
Tottenham.
the world.
He loves Tottenham, but he seems to be a guy that really cares about Spurs and not just the fans, but also what it means to play for Tottenham. To dare is to do. To play hard is what we strive for. And he embodies that 100%. And then when I hear him talk after the games, I don't know if it's just English is getting to be a little bit easier for him and he's starting to understand, some of the tonality involved, which very well may be the case. But he sounds like a guy who is in control and understands that one win doesn't make the season. And you listen to his post-game remarks, he sounded like a different player than he was even last year. It sounds like there's a lot that's come about in the last few months, and Heung-min Son is ready to take that, at least take a next step towards being the leader for Tottenham Hotspur. And that's so refreshing for us to see because he deserves every bit of it. He's been an absolute workman for the club and just a stud. He's a stud, and he's ours. And it feels damn good, and it feels like he feels good about that. And so whenever I have a player that feels confident with the fact that he knows those fans love me, I have to give everything for those fans. When I hear him speak now, that's exactly what he's saying. I need to do more for this club, my club.
Yeah, he's the dude now for the frontline Bucks. Do you think if there was ever a ceremony for like an important match, like who goes out and they're like, we're going to give you the captain armband, he'd probably like burst into tears and have 4 goals. Like he would take that like so upon him.
If he were to cry,
we should
there would
save
be a
that.
lot of he would have to answer to his father after the match if he were to cry live on air.
Did you show emotion? Yeah.
Yeah. No emotions.
Yeah. Well, no, he's allowed to smile constantly. The Sonny test is this. If you're an opposing team, they're supporters of an opposing team, and it's like a break happens and it's Son on the ball, you're just squeezing your cheeks, right? Absolute shit in your pants. Like, I don't know who's worse as far as like, oh God, here comes Sonny. He's got the ball. We have 2 center backs that are just backpedaling. We're fucked.
Yeah, they're probably shitting their pants. And that's okay. I like that.
You've been. Yeah.
Well, I have shit my pants before. Several times in the last year.
Let's talk about our much maligned backline Bucks.
Yes, I knew this was coming right now.
The center back duo of Eric Dyer, the project.
Wait. I hate doing this because it just gets us off kilter. But the Sonny goal. Sonny went through every celebration that he has in the bag.
He's went through the repertoire. He did. No, that's a good point. Before we talk about push our center backs back a little bit.
So Sonny starts with the lunging knees, which is classic Sonny, and it's all the
slight
limbs.
turn at the end. Slight turn at the end.
Yeah, slight turn, a lot of limbs going on, and then Sonny pulls out every celebration he had. He did the little Ronaldo thing where he just put his hand up to his ear.
Yep.
And then he goes to whatever this one is. Like, I don't even know what this is, but that's Sonny.
Yeah,
and then
he crosses the fingers. And then he does the picture frame.
Yeah.
And then I think he did the badge slap a little bit too.
He did everything. It was awesome.
He's still celebrating.
He didn't know what to do when he scored, so he did all of them. There was no pre-planning. It was just, I'm going to put the whole bag out there for the folks. All right, let's get to the back line.
There should be a moment, though, where they interview him and have him talk about his favorite goals against Man City, and then that segment goes like a half hour long.
It's still going to be Champions League.
It's got to be, but just I love how it's just growing as far as like all of his goals.
He's got a big bag.
He's got a huge account against Man City. But yeah,
Big
Dave
bag.
Sanchez, Eric Dyer. I kind of went into this match not too worried about them because I just knew what we get out of those guys, and they didn't play bad against Arsenal again. It's cool to have like these preseason quote unquote friendlies against teams you hate because you play hard. They look good then, and look, they could be meaningful contributors to this team, or if they're transferred out to another team. And Dave's got all the measurables, Dyer has all the experience, but they just put in an excellent shift too, Bucks. I mean, I don't know if it's you can't just base it off. You need a larger sample if you're going to say this historical return will yield better future results for the team as a whole all year. But at least for this game, the way Spurs set up, the way the team played, they were solid. AF.
I'd say Dyer's positioning was spectacular, and Sanchez's athleticism really helped us out.
Yeah, and I would say in this, I'm going to figure out if Spurs are successful all year, I will definitely pick out times to juxtapose this against Mourinho's shitty coaching. So here we go, week 1, when you're basically putting everyone behind the ball and you're trying to play like a back six or whatever it is, you're putting so much more pressure on your center back duo. And what happened last year is you're just watching Dyer and Sanchez make these mistakes where, they could make 15 great plays in a row, or when I say great, I mean solid plays, like whether fundamentally sound or positionally sound, whatever it might be. But then they're under a microscope, and then one mistake, bad touch, whatever it might be, something we have a problem, gold to the other team. The way Spurs set up here, where you still had Mora, Son, and Steve pretty further up the pitch, so you couldn't really squeeze down if you're Man City because you had to be aware of all the speed that could go on the counterattack. The way that the center halves, the midfield, it was really packed in the center, kind of pushed the game out wide. I think like that just kind of alleviated a little bit of pressure where it wasn't just this absolute onslaught of just bullets flying at those guys. And they responded better that way. They were just calmer in possession. It felt like positionally, they didn't feel like they were probably like dug in for 10 minutes straight of Man City kicking the ball around, just taking all those bullets. But that's just me going to really try to pick apart Mourinho versus, whatever we see this year.
Well, the biggest difference between the last two coaching regimes and what I saw this year, at least in one game, is
right.
that
the center like 5 or 6 now.
The center backs were asked to do less, meaning play your position. Don't worry about build up. Just blast it. And I've said it so many damn times, Shakes. If we just got better at getting rid of the ball and resetting, we would be in a better spot from a defensive standpoint. And we were yesterday. And it seemed like Dave had this freedom to just ping balls. The setup by Nuno was spectacular for what we had in front of us. And I tip my cap to the fella.
Well, I think also, Reggie, I don't want to say it was a quiet game, but it's just like I never heard Mars talked about ever. And I think also it's because Grealish was on the other side and they wanted to try to pick on the new kid, Tanganga. I just think there was a lot more trust in the fullbacks as well to play defensively. And I think also that allowed Dyer and Sanchez to kind of lean on those guys' defensive play as well. And then you just had Skip and Højbjerg putting in a shift where they were just always beyond the box. They weren't just box to box. They were coming back if they needed to and then sprinting back forward. I think that's where you get a little bit more comfort and security as well. Sure, and Ndombele could hold up the ball well, like better than anybody on the team. But just as far as like defensive stability goes, to have Skip in there instead of him alongside Højbjerg, that also had to help too. Like just knew you had guys like just running the roles. You had the two midfielders really playing a part, and then you had the fullbacks just one-on-one defensive specialists. So it just felt like it all worked. And it like you said, it just felt like they had less pressure. They were asked either less to do, or at the very least, it didn't feel like they were just constantly under the microscope, where just if one little mistake happened, next thing you know, problems occur with the Man City attack.
Well, the setup allowed them to have freedom to just ping a ball. Hey, you don't feel comfortable with an approach pass here? Just bomb it. See if Bergwijn could get under it. See if Lucas can get under it. And that's what worked. It worked. We looked great yesterday, Shakes. So good.
And now comes up a team where we just got to kind of own the possession and just own that game, Bucks. So it's going to be interesting to watch the team kind of really transition from not having the ball at all to having it probably a lot more over in Portugal. But what else do we want to talk about? We have men of the match to go over. Anything else you want to touch on with this game? I like Cootie coming in. I liked Romero coming in and just winning every aerial challenge his way. I also like Lo Celso coming in off the bench and playing further up as a wing. That was a cool call by Nuno, because it kept in Højbjerg until the very end when Højbjerg came out for Romero. And then Skip just had to play the full 90 along with Dele, which just what shifts, like we've said. But it was nice to have Lo Celso as a midfielder play a little bit more forward and chase the ball a little bit. It's like Spurs didn't go away from that. They weren't just going to go into this shell of 10 behind the ball. And I loved that call by Nuno to play Lo Celso further up for Steve, who just, had to have been gassed by that point.
Definitely. That was the biggest change. We didn't go into a shell. We went up 1-0 and we went for more. And we never stopped going for more.
We could have won by more. I'm just going to say it.
Well,
Steve should have scored.
Steve bags that, which was, by the way, a very easy pass into the back of the net that he turned into a little calamity there.
That place would have registered on the Richter scale. It would have exploded because that was right after the first goal, and Man City had just not almost equalized, but they were putting on the pressure, and then just out of nowhere, Spurs were in again.
Can I just say that Man City's kits are terrible? They look like practice kits.
I guess we'll have the Man City talk now before we serenade Spurs a little bit more. Fernandinho's what, 34, 35?
He's 36.
36?
Yeah.
Shit. How old's Gundogan?
I don't know.
He's 30.
He's
31 this October. I just looked it up.
He's still good.
They're good, but I remember I watched Liverpool, I thought, play really well, and it's just wow, Virgil van Dijk just means everything to this club. I talked about Liverpool maybe getting older and having some issues, but, Fernandinho, he's up there in age. I know you got, what's his face, Rodri behind him, but I'd be worried about my aging midfield and the fact that I can't score goals. I didn't score against Leicester in the Community Shield. I didn't score against Chelsea in the Champions League. I didn't score against Spurs week 1. I'm losing all these matches 1-0. They need a striker, Bucks. And I don't know if that means the price tag just went up. Probably did. I think it just went up, assholes. But whatever, man. I guess that's for them to figure out. That's their team's problems, not ours.
I like to think that Daniel Levy was sitting in his bunker. He's just watching this match. And the minute it hit 1-0, once it hit 1-0, he was just sitting there.
Yeah. No, he probably looked over to the the oil well box and was just like, up.
Hit the lever. We're going up.
Yeah.
180. Hit our price. You hit our price, you get a player. And Harry Kane, hell of a player for Spurs. But guess what? We just beat you without him. And I am more than happy. And this is going to come off as rather cynical, but that's fine.
Do it.
I'm more than happy with Harry Kane sitting and not getting paid and not playing for Spurs rather than going to Man City.
Well, he's getting paid. You mean Spurs not being paid?
No, he doesn't get paid. He's got to show up, Shakes.
Well, he didn't show up now, but now he'll be on the bench. Here's the thing. It's if I'm Spurs, this was the absolute best scenario for me. I beat the team that wants Harry Kane. They have the deficiencies in scoring. One of two things can happen here. It's either they're going to overpay for Kane now, or, when I say overpay, who even knows what that number is? It's 130, 140 million pounds, whatever. So either that could be a possibility, or maybe Harry Kane's man, the Rat, Levy, Nuno, they all got something cooking here. Maybe it does make sense that they hang on with this squad. So I'll take either door, Bucks, preferably the door where Kane stays on the team. But if the other option is just his price tag went up, hey, best outcome happened for Spurs, bar none, for the Harry Kane situation on Sunday. That's ancillary, though. The big news is we beat Man City and we look good doing it. And now we're all optimistic for the season. The side footnote to this is also this only helped the Harry Kane situation for Spurs.
It only helped in ways, but it's still disturbing for me personally that he's not even there. I didn't see him in the stadium. I didn't see him in the ground.
He's doing his own training regimen. Things will get sorted out.
Yeah, man.
You got to give him benefit of the doubt. Yeah, look, I will get more frustrated as the lack of pictures come out of him like having a good laugh with Sonny or Deli or whatever. I need like those training ground pictures where he's involved with the squad. But as the days go by, yes, I will grow in my frustration, but I will not start the anti-Harry campaign until we get a little bit further down here. We still have 15 days left until the transfer window's over.
So I've been very respectful of the situation throughout this. I think both of us have. We understand the dynamics at play here. At this stage, I was expecting to see him on the bench or at least in the owner's suite and watching this match and cheering on his teammates. That took a lot of wind out of my Harry Kane sail. I'm sorry, man. This is Man City. These are the league champions. They're coming into your house, and you're not even there. That hit me a bit harder than I expected it to. I mean, you saw the text from me yesterday morning.
It hit me hard too. I was hoping to just see him sitting there with the subs, like above the subs, like they can sit the row above them. Like I thought that's where I would see him.
You're under contract with Tottenham. This is a club you've been with since you were 9 years old. It's time to be Tottenham. I don't care that you don't think we brought in, the class is the most class manager that's out there for the taking. No, we brought in a guy that cares and that seemingly can get the best out of his players. We just beat the league champs. And yes, did they have a little dilapidated lineup yesterday? Sure.
Depleted.
Yeah. No, I like dilapidated.
Okay.
Because Tanganga dilapidated them. He put them directly into his back pocket.
He just collected them.
Got to catch them all. Tanganga. But it's upsetting because this is a player that both you and I love so much, and we know what he can do. He's just an absolute stud. I'm sorry, though. From what I saw yesterday and the approach that we took, which I think we have a few listener questions surrounding approach, so we might as well get into that. Do you think this is a style that can only fit against a team like Man City, Liverpool, Man U, Chelsea, where we're playing that ball, where you have the front line is very separated from the midfield. Midfield is tucking back. Do you feel like this is only a successful approach for matches against those big six teams? Or do you think this is something we might see moving forward, say against Wolves or Watford?
That's where it's difficult to say. If Spurs have possession and they're going to be squeezing in the final third, you just want your best player possibly ever out there. So Harry Kane fits, I would say, 99% of all lineups anyway, Bucks. This was so unique because Spurs had so much speed out there with Steve. They had Lucas and his work rate, and then they had Sonny out there. Yeah, maybe this recipe works a little bit better for Liverpool, but it's almost like you got to give Harry Kane benefit of the doubt and just assume that he'll rise to the occasion and be a meaningful player out there. It's tough to say like, oh, well, if you took out took out Steve Bergwijn and put in Harry Kane or whatever the combo would have been, how would that have looked? Or maybe Deli would have been the casualty. I don't know. So it will beg that question, I think, to the Paratici, as well as Nuno, Levy, Spurs brass, where if these numbers start getting a little bit higher that Man City are going to be thrown out offering, you're like, well, we got a pretty good front line that plays cohesively. And also, look, Harry Kane's not slow, but at the same time, he doesn't have those guys' speed. And maybe that's just the way we should play. It's tough because it's just been one match. It was a unique match against a team that was going to really control the ball. So it's tough to say.
And they did.
They did. I mean, Spurs controlled that game basically from minute 20 on without the ball. That was like a Jose line, right? Controlling the game without the ball. But I mean, they were always more the threat to score because of how wide open Man City was. It's tough, man. I mean, Harry Kane's still best player for Spurs. I mean, he's one of the best strikers in the world. Like, he needs to stay on your team. That's what you want. It's just, if you're asking this very unique setup against the Chelseas, Liverpools, Man Cities, Man U's, yeah, I mean, I think you still have him out there. It's just, it's great that Spurs, I guess I look at it that way. It's great that Spurs have a different way to play too.
Well, what do we do when teams are willing to park the bus?
Well, that's where you need Harry Kane out there for sure.
Yeah.
And that's where you also need to play, in my opinion, Lo Celso with, Dele out there. Get like the more creative guys out there that can come up with something in the final third. And then I would like to think Cootie, like Romero is also why you get him for those games too, because he'll have the possession. He'll be like that man that can go forward with the ball too, like he did with Atalanta. So, I mean, Spurs got some tricks up their sleeve for those games. I don't think Spurs are looking at it like we need to keep Harry Kane for specific games. It's just they want to keep Harry Kane. It's just they're going to have to make a pragmatic business decision if the numbers get to the point where it's like, all right, do we take the 130 million pounds plus Laporte plus what's that Morgan? What's his name? The left winger.
Morgan Rogers.
Morgan Rogers. I mean, at some point there might be this moment where you're like, shit, this is quite the offer.
No. When you have a team that really needs that striker presence and you're asking for the best striker in the world, I like to think that I don't want Laporte. I don't want Rogers. I want 180 mil.
Yeah, I just want the cash too. Straight cash.
I want the dollar bills, y'all.
And Laporte, you could talk me into because it's center back depth. I don't know.
No,
you would rather have him than Tomiyasu. I just don't know what his wages are. I don't know how that all structured,
good point.
Hits with everybody. And that's part of the issue too, is like, what's that guy's contract? Does he want to be there? The thing that's interesting to me, Bucks, that now weighs more, like I used to look at this in a vacuum where it's like, all right, Harry Kane for X amount of dollars or for this player, whatever it is. Now what's hitting me more though is, what is Harry Kane's temperature on still wanting to play for Spurs? And like you said, it really did resonate with me too when they asked Nuno, and he's just like, well, Harry's on his own training program and, we're lucky to have him. But, he just wasn't there. He wasn't there for this epic match. All the supporters are back. It's Man City coming to town. That sucks. So that's the part that on the emotional side now I'm letting creep in. And I think that actually does have to be kind of factored in a little bit too. Does he really want to be here?
That's a big question. That is the crucial question. Does he want to be Spurs?
Yeah. I'd want Harry Kane all day long at 25 when he was just bleeding Spurs and everything like that. I mean, I would never give that guy up. 28 years old now, and it seems like his eye's wandering, and you don't know how into it he would be this season. He's a professional. I'm sure he'd give it his all, but let's be real. There's like that, percentage, whatever it might be, where just if it just means more, you will see that output by the player. It's just what it is.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed, Shakes, that we have such a young core. We really do. I talked about it last pod. Our core is very, very young, and they haven't had a chance to prove themselves. So with Harry Kane as a senior leader, best striker in the world, essentially saying, there are greener pastures aside from Spurs, I do think there's a part of this that can bring out the best in those players that are left behind. Those players that are sitting there and, Harry, you're too good for us, huh? I need to prove that we're good enough for you. And the fact remains, Harry Kane has had opportunities in finals. And this is not being critical of his performance in those finals, but he's had chances at them. And the fact is, we haven't gotten over the line. And I think that there's a part of Harry Kane, I hope that there's a part of Harry Kane that thinks that he could actually win something here. He's had the opportunities. But now with this youth movement that we've had, our recruiting has been, at times questionable, but at the same time, I look at it and it's like they just need room to breathe. They need some time. Let them go. And now, if we have a chance to let them go, I would love for Harry Kane to take that, hey, you guys are under my chicken wing. I want to win now. And you've shown me that we can win now. Problem is, I don't really see that playing out. I think
Yeah,
the
what's your
Cards have already
percentage? Give it to me right now. Leave stays.
70 leave.
I'm exactly that too. I
Yeah.
put it 70-30. And I think it's because now Man City, more than anything, is like, shit, we have a goal scoring problem.
Big time.
I mean, did you
Big
see
time.
Man City? Let's make fun of them for a second. All of their corners were short corners because they had to do like training ground set piece plays. They even had that set piece.
The
where
one
it
was
like,
really good though.
that one was good, and that was probably their best chance. It was Gabe was it Torres's face, but really Torres has got to finish that. But the only other time they had a corner where they actually kicked it deep, I can't remember what center back, but he attempted a header from outside the box. It's like the equivalent of like trying to score from 40 yards out. Like, talk about speculative. It's like they had no idea what to do as far as like, all right, we're going to swing this thing into the box and hopefully someone gets a head on it. Like, it's just all training ground or possession based stuff where, all right, we're going to do a short kick and we're going to try to figure it out from here. Like,
Yeah.
that's a problem. Like
It was
this
touch
is
and
week
go.
one. This is week one. Man City, Pep's a good enough manager where the season is so damn long. He might figure out ways to get 3 points at Watford or, Wolves, these games where other managers or teams like Chelsea and Man U, whoever the favorites are, might stumble. So you could always argue Man City is a threat to win the league, okay? But if you're trying to win the big prize, the Champions League prize that has eluded them, Man City, you're not the best team in the world in knockout game situations or 2-game aggregate situations. You're 5th to 7th right now, in my estimation. So you need a striker.
What's so funny is you saw Raheem Sterling turn into the goal scoring threat in the Euros. And then when he's out there for Man City yesterday, not even close.
Yeah, because he played with Kane at Euros. That's the way they got to look at it.
Damn, I didn't even think about that, Shakes. Yeah.
Well, you had
180.
At one point, you had Kane playing with Grealish, Foden, Sterling. I mean, it might be a big number, Bucks. That's just all I'm going to tell everyone. Just prep for that. And here's the thing. If he'll always be a professional and play hard. Spurs are in his blood. But it gets very binary. If he doesn't want to be here, you got to take that money.
Take the money and run. KT here. Which players will we buy for 180 mil? I don't know.
We already bought. I
really don't know.
I would say this: you don't immediately spend it this window. I know that's tough to hear, but you don't suddenly get into a situation where you're now kind of upping the price on yourself. So it needs to be spent wisely. And if it's over the course of a year and a half, Bucks, that's just what you got to do.
I agree. I think I'm not worried about the immediate right now.
I'm really not either. And, I know the January window usually sucks, but, the rat hopefully was brought in for like a 5-year plan, not fix us in the next 12 months. So I think the way I look at it is you got to be cautious with your spending of that money. But, oh man, we would have quite the podcast if it was just spend 180 million pound day on the Talking Tottenham podcast.
Should we be concerned? This is from Nathan Keller here. Should we be concerned that Harry Kane burned too many bridges if he does stay?
Yeah. I mean, that's what we kind of talked about, is just his actions and how he's kind of working with the team and being, really close to the vest as far as like what his thoughts are on everything. He's basically posted one Instagram thing and that's it. I mean, it doesn't seem like the relationship is great. So that's definitely a problem too. I don't think it's a problem with the players. I think you just understand, you respect people who are trying to go about their business and look out for their families and what's best for them. I think there's like a player's code there where like when you're in, you're all in, they're my brothers, all that stuff. But when we're talking with management, yeah, I think that can absolutely stay fractured. And that's happened multiple times in European soccer.
So Nathan had cited the multiple jabs from the players on social media that were thrown his way. The Kobe thing from Dyer, the Tanganga talk from this morning. There's been a few jabs. Sonny did the same thing.
Well, no one liked his post. Oh, I mean, maybe that's changed. But at one point when he posted like, oh, this was my plan all along, no first teamer even liked that post.
It's time I talked about that post. That post is bullshit. There was nothing factual there. it's very clear when your entire management is saying, well, there's an issue with Harry. A week before you come out and say, this was always planned. This was not always planned. It was planned by you.
Yeah.
It wasn't vocalized.
I guess that wasn't a lie that way.
Yeah,
Wasn't
exactly.
he at Joe Lewis's island though?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
So like Joe Lewis is like at the pool and he sees Harry and his family there and he's like, what are you still doing here?
I don't know.
Like, shouldn't you be in London? What are you doing?
Shouldn't you have boots on right now? What the hell is this?
It doesn't make sense, man.
None of it makes sense.
The same people that advised him to sign a 6-year contract are advising him right now. So unfortunately, it just feels like they need a little bit better brain trust going. I don't know. Like, it just feels like it's not been handled well. That's what sucks, because it's like he totally could be misunderstood in all of this. And that's why I'm holding out hope that he is and things could work out well. I mean, this point's been made a million times, Bucks, but it would be far more meaningful for him and for him historically if he wins something big time at Spurs versus just going to Man City and winning there. Like, think of like Mahrez's chip with Leicester City. That means far more in the grand scheme of things than him just winning at Man City.
I agree.
So,
I think with
Harry.
the players on social media, I don't read too much into that, just because you and I, right? I prod you at times, you prod me. We try to get, different motivations going from time to time. For me, it's usually trying to golf better, and you're always talking shit about my golf game because you're actually very good at golf and I'm terrible at golf, and that's just how we roll. You're not that good though.
No, I'm not.
But I will prod you. And I feel like that's a lot of what we're seeing with Spurs players with Kane. I think they're friends, and I think they're prodding him right now to say, hey, get on board. Let's do this thing. Instead of it being such a slight, like you burned a bridge and you can never come back. I do feel that from the player perspective, they know who Harry Kane is, and they believe in Harry Kane, and they want him back wearing a number 10 for Spurs.
Reading the tea leaves, I think some of the players are surprised. Like, I think the Delis, the Suns, the guys that have known him longer, I think they were kind of like, well, Harry's trying to make his position here, and he's thinking this, look out for him, whatever. And then now that it's dragged on, they're kind of looking around like, what the fuck? What's going on? Why are we still doing this, Harry? Like, that's where you're right. The player prodding does feel a little bit like that. I got it at 70-32, Bucks. We'll see. Let's stop talking about him. Let's not taint the huge Spurs victory to start the season by talking over and over about something I'm sure everyone's heard enough about.
We just spent way too much time on it too.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm sorry, listeners. I'm sorry.
Man.
But I guess we got to talk about those things.
Yeah, it's kind of
men of the match. Men of the match.
Man, such a list to choose from, Bucks. I'm going Lucas is my number one. I just thought he put in an absolute shift. And play like that, Lucas, start every game. I'm on board with it. My number 2, Japhet Tanganga. My number 3, Dele Alli. And honorable mention, basically everyone else on the team. Everyone played well. Really, I mean, you could argue Højbjerg. I mean, he was the one getting pulled at the end, for Romero. I thought he put in a great shift too, but I don't know. Like who let you down today? No one.
Not a single player. I mean, you could put all 11 up there, except Hugo. He didn't have to do much.
He had that one shaky stop where it seemed like he dove a little late on the De Bruyne shot, 10 minutes to go. But I mean, other than that, he was great.
So I had Tanganga, clearly my number 1. What a stud. I hope he's my number 1 for every match, Shakes. Just to rub it in your little squirrely nose.
How much, what was your hatred scale on Grealish by the end of that match?
None.
He was like, oh, really? He was bitching at Taylor. He was yelling at Tanganga.
No.
Then he fouled Lucas hard and got the yellow and got Lucas is the nicest player in the planet. He's getting in that guy's face.
No way. Lucas.
I loved every second of it.
Lucas, it's all a facade. He comes off as this God-fearing man that is so respectful. No, he's a killer. Lucas Moura has killed. That's what I know.
He just kills you, and he's just going, quiz. He did another one of those videos on the Twitter. Did you see it?
Quiz.
Like, I picture him running by you with the soccer ball, just burning you down the right side. Quiz. Yeah. the engine.
Yeah. So Tanganga for me, top class. Unbelievable. Number 2, Lucas. I thought Lucas, engine, absolute engine. The setup was so perfect for who he is. You know, you didn't have to have him think out there. It was gun it. And you have one of two options. Take whatever one is more open. Do that. Lucas looked great. Number 3 was Sanchez. I got to tip my cap to Sanchez. He was winning every header down the last 30-minute stretch. Everything that was near him was headed out of the box. That's what I need from him. He was also not tasked with like little weird passes that Poch or Jose tried to make him take. He was just asked to do the following: win the ball, hit the ball hard. Boom. It's very simple for Dave. When you get elementary with it, it seems simpler for him. And I loved his performance. I thought Dave definitely deserves a shout here.
Absolutely. And I want to end this match with some plausible what ifs that have supporters excited for this season. And they're plausible, man. The what ifs are Tanganga can be a starting right back in the Prem. Another what if is what if Romero just plugs in and he is one of the dominant center backs in the Prem. Another what if that seems plausible now is Dele Alli can be a starting 4-3-3 left-sided midfielder and then also poach up forward and be a very good player for Spurs again and undroppable in the 11. And then another plausible what if that's probably the furthest out, but I think would really kind of put everything into place is what if Steve Bergwijn can start finishing?
Ooh.
All those things are attainable. And at that point, then we'll see where our expectations go.
Youth. We're young. We're young shakes. We're trying to blossom right now. It's not springtime, but it's starting to feel that way in Spurs land. Quick shout to Tanganga here from Brian Lozen. Did anyone have big boners watching Tanganga?
Boner jams.
Yeah, trust me, dude. I was fully torqued.
On all 3 watchings?
A little less on the third, but first and
Yeah.
second, fully torqued. I knew what was coming after that.
Love
it's
it.
like the third go round of a porn video. You know, no, it doesn't really do it for you anymore.
You know the lines by then.
Evan Stone. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. To answer your question, Brian, large boners.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel that we can make it through the season with the current defensive players?
I think you need a rotation. I think Romero just needs to be plugged in, though, in that rotation is like the pillar, you know, the cornerstone of it, if you will. I said this earlier, Bucks. It's a smaller sample. They played great this match, but look, we need to remember all last year before that. I think it makes sense to get another center back in. And if it means Dyer or Sanchez still are getting transferred out, both or one of them, I mean, they just had a great showing to maybe hopefully drive up some interest, you know, not to make this cold-hearted, like thanks for nothing, you know, against Man City. But in the last 14, 15 days of this window, I mean, I think there could be one of those or both those guys moved, probably just one of them. And it's such a long season. There's going to be 50 plus games played. You just need to have a rotation that you trust. And I think Romero is where it starts. And I don't know where Rodin fits into this. He still was, you know, getting back into shape from Euros. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
I think we'll be fine as we currently stand.
Hope so. Yeah, I mean, Romero
I'm actually
can change a lot. I mean, you can plug him now with any of those guys and see if you have a better pairing.
I'm very hopeful. Here's one from Zach Angelos. Can we survive/thrive with Son, Steve, Lucas, and Dele in attack? Although I found that Dele really wasn't all that involved in the attack.
Not yesterday. This game, but I think he would be when it's like Spurs are at Watford, right?
Can they thrive? Can they survive?
They can definitely survive. To thrive, it's tough because they got to do it day in, day out, game in, game out. So I think Spurs absolutely need a backup striker. Like, I think that's starting to, like, I don't know the Harry Kane situation. Just put that aside. Either way, they just need a backup striker. That's now starting to become number one need for me. If the center back play is is doing better. Right back now suddenly looks a little bit more solidified. Maybe getting another center mid, assuming Ndombele is just off the reservation, and then a backup striker. I mean, backup striker might be need number one now, Bucks.
I agree. I think based on all the circulation in the rumor mill, on the old Twitter sphere, it seems like that's what we're gunning for, is a backup striker or just a striker.
Yeah. I know Nuno has said he likes to play two strikers at times and may want to. Will probably depend on the team that they're going against for that setup. You wouldn't absolutely see it here. But, I mean, the continuity that those front three have right now, and then fourth, including Delhi, look, they didn't finish great. I mean, Son had the one finish that mattered, but you could tell there's something kind of going on with those four guys. They're playing well. And then Lo Celso can be more offensive too. You know, he played as a secondary striker before. He's played at the left side as a winger. You're not getting blistering pace, but you're getting a guy that's also a lot more creative and technically sound in the final third too. If you do got to bring him in to get a late equalizer or a late winner.
So here's one from Savino. Who burned more bridges with their club, Harry Kane or Jamie Tart?
I still have hope for Kane. I'll leave it at that.
I'd say Jamie Tart burned all the bridges there.
I haven't caught up on it. I got like 3 episodes behind because I like to binge.
Well, you saw him burn down the club. They got relegated.
Oh yeah. No, I mean but it wasn't his decision to get transferred out or his loan return. I can't remember what, because didn't what's her face, the boss?
Yeah, but he was also a shitbag.
No, he was, but I think Lasso was still working on him and didn't want him to go. He didn't want him to go. Remember, he thought they took his house.
Sneak peek into season 2 here, Shakes. Jamie Tart is back.
No way. Oh boy. Yeah. Can't wait to dive in.
Yeah. I like this from Jerry McNeil. Does Kane have a small figurine from Nuno? I hope so. I hope he's a little army man.
Whatever Nuno needs to do.
All right. So I think we just have one more question here from KT. Spurs played very well blocking the central channels, allowing City's fullbacks to have ball control during build-up. Do you guys think this tactic can backfire against teams playing with wing-backs like Chelsea? Coy's smiley face.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the way to combat it. Also, Spurs kind of, or Nuno at least, made this judgment to do it this way because Zinchenko and Walker were both on the bench, right? So we talked about the Christmas tree setup where they still kept the 3 triangle guys up front, Steve, Lucas, Sonny, but then really stacked the middle and forced them out wide. I just don't think Spurs set up that way against really anyone else but Man City and possibly Chelsea. And even then, Chelsea, Liverpool have excellent fullbacks. So that would be a concern as well. I just think this was kind of like a setup that Spurs kind of practiced, the last week and a half that really worked. And really just if they have midfielders that will really respond well to like the in-game training and it doesn't fluster them or whatever, and you can have Skip and Højbjerg either push forward or create more room in the middle and you drop Dele back, and then also you have fullbacks that can move forward more. I mean, it's not like this tactic was something crazy that we pulled out of the training ground, Bucks. I think it's just something that can morph into a different type of tactic against a different team.
So the tightness, though, that Christmas tree, and it was tight. Way to go from Nuno.
Tight ass tree.
It's a tight ass tree, man. Really good. All right, so Spurs beat Man City 1-0. I for the first time in a long time, I just felt like a little kid again. In wrapping our observations on this game, there's nothing I love more than watching Spurs go out there with a full stadium, flags waving, people going absolutely nuts. It completed everything that I love about this club. Getting that win was so good for this club. So 1-0, And now we move on. Pachos de Ferreira is coming up on Thursday. I was calling them Pacos last week, but I realize now that they had the little thing underneath the C. Pachos de Ferreira playing in front of 9,000 Portuguese fans out there. Nuno making his way home. How do you think we set up for that one, Shakes?
No idea, Bucks. You go into it.
All right.
I mean, you can tell me anybody. The quick turnaround that I'm sure Jose. Oh yeah, another opportunity. Jose be bitching about the schedule already because we have to go to Portugal, even though it's like, as you pointed out, a 45-minute flight, and then after that, 2 Wolves in a span of 4 days. So yeah, that is kind of rough. But Nuno probably won't bitch about it, unlike Jose, who would have bitched about it probably preseason.
So I'm in Tampa, Florida. If I go to Atlanta, that's about an hour flight, right? It's the same thing here. It is not a big deal. But I do think we're going to shake it up quite a bit for this starting 11.
Oh, yeah. Big emotional and physical toll the last game. So you got to rest a lot of the players that just were warriors against Man City.
I think you have to. So I have Pierluigi Gallini in goal.
Love it.
That's a no-brainer. I got Davis on the left, Dyer, Cameron Carter-Vickers in there. I could see Roden and Dyer swapping there. So Dyer on the right, Roden on the left.
Rocat.
I'm just not sure where Rocat. I'm not sure where his fitness is. Then unfortunately I got Doherty in there. Let's hope we can get a good return on that, but that's what I have. And then I have Skip, Nile John, who we're not waiting until 2025 for. We're throwing Nile John in there. Giovanni Lo Celso right in front of that pairing. And then Brian Heel on the left-hand side, Steve on the right, and Dane Scarlett being our striker.
Damn. I love it. The only changes I would look at is you do have Winks and Sissoko both fresh because they did not play at all against Man City.
Fair point.
I think Winks gets the start for sure. Sissoko, there are some Italian transfer rumors out there. Not sure where we're at there. It's actually his birthday today. Bucks, didn't know if you knew that.
Happy birthday, Hog.
Happy birthday,
yes, I do.
Hog. That was promised. Steve would be the one I could see in there. I think you want to stave Sonny and Lucas if you can. Skip played a full 90 Bucks, so I don't want to run him to the ground already. So take out Skip, put in Winks.
Sissoko.
I think maybe even put in Winks Sissoko with GLC in there. Maybe that's just the way to kind of go about it. Otherwise, I kind of liked your back line. I could see Rodon starting, assuming the fitness is there. I could also see just another Dyer Sanchez. Like if we just want to keep running that back and just seeing if they play well together, especially knowing that maybe one of them might be transferred out in the next 2 weeks. So you want to put them on display. Also 100% agree with the Gallini start.
I got Spurs 2-0.
That's what I had. 2-0 Spurs.
2-0 Spurs. We march on to the second leg, which is next week at home against Pachos de Ferreira. And then we got Wolves on Sunday, the homecoming for one Nuno Espirito Santo.
That's again, he's not going to bitch about it like Jose would, but it goes from Man City to then at his old stomping grounds. Kind of rough.
It is kind of rough. I'm looking forward to the Conference League. I like this shit.
A lot of Google mapping ahead.
I'm about to get into Pachos de Ferreira. We'll have that for you after the match.
Gorgeous countryside out here.
I want to close this by saying the following. Follow us on Twitter at TTPodCoys. Follow us on YouTube, Talking Tottenham Pod. But I want to end here. Japhet Tanganga is going to be Young Player of the Year. It's not Ollie Skip. It's Japhet Tanganga.
Ooh,
it always has been.
Let's have a wager on this. Round of golf and stakes at Burns. I got Skip. You got Tanganga.
So how do we measure a victory here?
Oh, I thought you meant they're just named Spurs Young Player of the Year.
I'm talking about the Premier League.
Okay, so if one of them get it. If not, it's just a voided bet.
Fair. I will take Tanganga all day.
And I got Skip. This is an award they give out, right?
Yes, Young Player of the Year.
I mean, they gave out Man of the Year to Ruben Diaz, so they probably...
I gave out Man of the Year. He's the Man of the Year.
Yeah.
Ruben Diaz got his shit pushed in.
Move aside, immunologists that discovered the vaccine. We got Ruben Diaz, who played center back at Manchester City, who can't win anything.
Move aside, scientists. Move aside. It's Japhet Tanganga Man of the Year. All right, Danny Shakes, let's beat Pachos de Ferreira.
Let's go. Let's win this. And come on, you Spurs.
Coys, get it done. Beat Pachos de Ferreira.
Coys.